Hi everyone, this is Rick with Akucast. Thank you for joining us here as I show you another feature snippet. Today we're going to talk about the roll-up process within Akucast. And let me orient you real quick to what you're seeing here. With Akucast, you get two tabs, and you usually choose between Lighthouse 1 or Lighthouse 1, and you also have Periscope, which is our analytics page. But we're going to focus on Lighthouse. So this is the process, this is the page that reps and managers would use to submit their forecasts. So let me show you that how the organization is structured, and then I'll show you the roll-up process. I am acting as a head of sales, and then I have a director of sales, Michelle, that works for me. And then Michelle has a team member, Eddie, that is a sales rep for the company that rolls up to her. Now, when we look at the forecast process, there's two ways to look at forecasting. One is we have this forecast box here, and the forecast box also has full history that we snapshot. And there's different ways if you wanted to look at that data. And if the rep wanted to do, let's say, call it a subjective type number submission, they could just use inline edit, submit their numbers, most likely, best case, worst case, leave a note if they want, and hit the save button, and they've submitted their forecast. Most reps, though, nowadays are going to do a data-driven method of doing forecasting. Most of the ways you usually do it is you would go into Salesforce, you'd run a report, you'd export that report to a spreadsheet, you would sort and tag the data, the opportunities, and then you figure out what you want to forecast. With Akucast, what we're going to do instead is keep everything 100% within Salesforce. No exports, no spreadsheets. And we're going to utilize this column here called the must-win column to tag all of the deals that we want to include in this week's forecast. So what most reps will do is scrutinize their deals, update the deals, make sure they're in the right stage, in the right forecast category. So let me show you what that might look like. We have 40 total deals for 8-1. 20 of them are closed won at 4-5. Nothing that can be done with these deals, but sometimes reps want to look at that. If the rep would then look at the commits, do I still feel good on these 9 committed deals? The dollar amounts, I still feel Eddie still feels good about them, and everything is fine. Okay, let's move on, and let's look at the best case deals. Best case, there's 31 deals for 5.9 million. Does Eddie still feel good about forecasting these deals? And keep in mind that as far as the sandbox is concerned, there's 1 week left to the quarter. Um, so please don't pay attention to the dollars and everything else. This is just for demo purposes. But um, clicking on a column, Eddie can easily sort this data like you could on a spreadsheet and figure out of my best case deals, do I still agree? I want to forecast these for. He says yes. Everything is updated. If you wanted to add another deal, you could easily just click it and say, I want to include this deal in this week's forecast. And since we are just 1 week left to the quarter, you would hope there would be no pipeline deals left. You got commit, best case, and pipeline. And luckily, Eddie's done well on his keeping his pipeline updated, and he does not have any deals in pipeline. If he did, he would scrutinize those and figure if those would roll up the best case, and if he wanted to forecast that. So at this point in time, Eddie is happy with his pipeline. He's completed his pipeline management, and now he can go ahead and say, let me do my forecast. And as I mentioned, there's the subjective method. He can just do numbers based on what he feels, kind of an old school method, or he can do a data-driven method. So out of all the starred deals, there's 34 of them for a total amount of 7.8 million. And so here we've summed up the number based on the data for Eddie. And a lot of reps will use this as guideposts, right? The data is saying, based on what the company has calculated the logic to be, I should be forecasting 7, 8, 12, and 6.8. And so Eddie can say, great, right? Let me submit this. But I don't agree. I think Hershey is going to be go with a bigger quote. So I'm going to plus it up a little bit more. Even though I don't have that updated in the data, that's what I think. So he still has the ability to submit a number he's comfortable with and not stuck to a number that the system is telling him. And the note is super helpful because management may look at this one day and say, you know what, why is he going against what the logic says? And by leaving this note, it solves a lot of communication issues. Or even for forecast goals, go a lot faster by having this kind of information here. So once Eddie submits and completes his forecast update, the manager will get an email. Now, let's say everybody had to have their forecast in by Saturday midnight. So Sunday morning, Michelle can come in here and say, all right, the team should have all the numbers in. Now, me as the director of sales, Michelle, I can now go in and complete this roll-up process. And so everything changes, and as you can see, everything looks the same. I see what Eddie sees, except for one thing called team forecast. So the team forecast box now shows all the direct reports Michelle has, Eddie and Jim. And Eddie, as you recall, he forecasted 8.2. Now, Michelle can do the same thing. She can just do a subjective outlook on what she thinks the team's going to do, or she can do a scrutinized version of it. So let's look at both methods. One is, I know Eddie, he's usually over optimistic. He's forecasting 8.2, so I'm going to say he's going to do 7.5. And Jim, he's usually pessimistic, right? And so he's forecasting 8.1. And so I think he should be 8.5. I'm going to plus him up a little just based on my personal relationship with these guys, knowing how they forecast. There are other people who say, you know what, because I got this tool available, I don't have to limit myself to doing subjective forecasts now. I can actually back up my forecast based on data using Akucast. So let me come in here and I could do a scrutinized deal of looking at, what's in commit, kind of the whole same process that I just showed you what Eddie does. Usually, though, what a manager will do is say, you know what, I want to drill into just Eddie. Let's say I'm good with Jim, but I'm very uncomfortable with Eddie, for whatever reason. Let me make myself feel good about his number instead of hitting a $7 million quota, an $8.2 million number. And so she can come in here and she can see Eddie's page, exactly what Eddie sees. Not a representation, but exactly what he sees. And so Eddie forecasted 8.2, and I can come down here and see what deals he forecasted at the click of a button. And he forecasted 34, and the data is saying 7.8, and he's saying 8.2. And immediately the first question asked is, why is he going against what the data says? And he left a tooltip. Hershey is in for a bit more. Okay, I get it. Okay, I'm good, right? As Michelle, I'm fine with that. And so now Michelle can come in here, and just for demo purposes, I can show you how she could change this number. She can say, I'm going to submit 16. Let's say she's going to change this to 8.7. And so she's really thinking the most likely is 16.2, and 16.2, 21, and 12. 16.2, 21, and 12. If she wanted to leave a note, she could. And she just submitted her forecast to the head of sales. 16.2, 21, and 12. And as the head of sales, I'll also get an email. I'll know the team's got the forecast submitted. If I feel good that the deadline has passed, as the head of sales, I can do the exact same process Michelle just did. So there's no reason for me to show you that process again. Anyways, that's a real quick snippet, probably a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. But as you can see, it's super easy. The roll-up process eliminates the spreadsheets thing. Also eliminates any kind of exporting or reports that need to be run. It all stays within Salesforce. And more specifically, it lives within the Akucast app. So you can easily see this data. And again, if you saw anything that looked interesting to you on here and we don't have a snippet for it, please go to Akucast.com and you can book a demo and we can show you that specific, we can answer that specific question you want to see. Thank you.